Ding dong, the Doormaker is dead. He's officially been removed in beta patch version 0.105.0, and there's a brand new boss that's replacing Doormaker. We're going to go through all that and more in this video. We're going to go through all the patch notes. So let's skip a little bit forward and let's just get right into the Doormaker stuff. I think it's important. Doormaker out, Eon Glass in. I think that's Eon. Maybe it's Aeon. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Doormaker has been replaced with a brand new boss, Eon Glass. While Doormaker had interesting micro decisions in the fight, he was over the complexity threshold of what we want and had lingering issues. We decided that starting over fresh will let us hit what we actually want for an Act 3 boss. The patch notes don't say much about Doormaker. That is the only mention until you get down to the enemy section, and it just says reworked Doormaker to a new boss, Eon Glass. Luckily, while I was on stream, I got to face Eon Glass a couple times. I got to face them twice, and they were difficult, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about Doormaker. I want to know, are you guys excited that Doormaker is out? Are you guys upset that Doormaker is out? Because I personally really enjoyed the Doormaker fight. I thought it was very interesting. I thought that that complexity that they're talking about made the fight really interesting. I didn't think he was particularly hard once you understood like sort of the mechanics of Doormaker, but I know that a lot of people did either find him hard or hated him because they couldn't play the decks the way they wanted. I'm very interested in your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below. Are you happy about Doormaker being gone? Are you upset about it? I'm personally going to miss him. You know, I think he was a good boss. I think I really like those sort of unique villains that you have to face. As of right now, they haven't said anything about it, but I'm assuming Doormaker is gone for good. Though there's always a chance they try and bring him back for like an alternative Act 3 or maybe even an Act 4. I don't know that. No insider information or anything like that. There's always a chance, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the future if they rework Doormaker or they just leave him out permanently. Let's talk Eon Glass now. I got to face Eon Glass a few times on stream. I thought it was an interesting fight. I honestly thought it was a much more difficult fight than Doormaker. The first time that I faced Eon Glass, I got absolutely walloped because I didn't have any information on it. I didn't know what the boss was going to be like. Eon Glass dealt a massive amount of damage when it was attacking. 32 to just start off the fight, which is really strong. Every 4 non-status cards you play, you add a wither to your hand. And what a wither is a 1-cost status card that has retain. And at the end of your turn, if it's in your hand, you take 2 damage. It also has exhaust on it. I think energy is going to be a big time piece of being able to beat this enemy. It's going to be very difficult because if you don't exhaust it, you're retaining the card. So it doesn't break through your block. It does hit your block when it's damaging you. It's not a direct hit to your HP pool, but it is really rough when you have like 3 of them in hand and then you can't draw into other cards and you can't play other things and you're just taking an extra like 6 damage and your hand is filled with these things. It was sort of a pain in the ass. I felt like it was more difficult than the Doormaker fight. It hit for around the same amount that Doormaker did, but those retain cards were a lot to deal with. I think over time, it's gonna be a little easier. Like I said, I lost the first fight to Eon Glass, but the second time that I faced them, when I climbed the Spire again, I ended up beating them. However, I had a very, very low amount of health. Obviously, not very easy. It's not supposed to be. It's the Act 3 boss. A very, very interesting new enemy. And that's kind of your first look at it and kind of my first thoughts about it. Let me know in the comment section. Have you faced Eon Glass? Did you have as much trouble against it as I did? Because I did struggle a little bit. Deals a lot of damage, but I do think it's a cool boss. I'll be streaming on Friday playing against it and hopefully getting up to Act 3 and facing off against it a bunch of times. That'll be really fun. Let's go over some of the other patch notes outside of Doormaker and Eon Glass. We have the Bestiary being introduced into the game. I think this is awesome. I think Bestiary, very cool. It's going to show you exactly their different attacks and their animations right now. That's all it does. But eventually they're going to add some data in there and they're going to have other things that are going to presumably tell you, hey, you've lost to this enemy a lot, or you've taken X amount of damage, hopefully, you know, stuff like that. I think that's a very, very cool addition. And then we have some balance changes. For the Silent, only one card was nerfed. Only one card was changed. And it was a nerf of Blade of Ink. The Inky enchantment damage decreased from +2 to +1. I think this was really good. I think it was really necessary. Blade of Ink is absolutely broken. All that weak from shivs is insane. Not a huge change. It's just a little bit of a damage decrease. So I don't know if it's going to be enough, but Blade of Ink was kind of problematic, honestly. I know that everybody's concerned about the Sly mechanics in Silent, so I'm surprised we haven't really seen too many nerfs to them. Maybe they're finding that the previous nerfs are in like a better place in terms of that. Regent got a lot of changes to the card pool. I think what's going on with Regent is that Regent is starting to be found to be a very strong character. People are getting better with him, and we're going to start to see a little bit of nerfs to some of the stronger cards. For example, Bulwark got nerfed, a little bit of the block decreased. We got 13 to 12, and then on the upgrades, 16 to 15. I think that's very good. Bulwark was an insane card. Patter also got nerfed a little bit. Just one tick of block from the regular and the upgrade. No big deal. They also buffed Crescent Spear, which was not really the greatest card. And so the base damage increase is good from 6 to 8. They buffed Royalties, which was, in my opinion, a good card, but hard to take because usually you're offered it alongside two like really good damage cards or defend cards or something at the end of boss fights. Now that they increased the amount of gold on the upgrade from 35 to 40, a little more tempting to take, I think. Gonna be a little interesting. And the last Regent change, which I didn't talk about, was a slight rework of Sword Sage. The old Sword Sage said that Sovereign Blade now hits an additional time. Instead, they changed the wording to say Sovereign Blade gains replay 1. Their main reason for doing this is so that it has synergy with parry, because now if you play it and it hits the enemy, it's going to replay. So you're going to gain the block from the first play and then gain block from the replay with parry. So I think that's a very, very good change. I think that's going to make parry a lot stronger. It was already pretty decent. It's been pretty good since they buffed it a couple weeks ago. We got some buffs for Defect, which I think makes sense. I think Defect's been struggling a little bit. They buffed Infused Core, one of the Defect relics. It now gains lightning orbs, deal 1 additional damage. So it's almost like a personal lightning orb focus. I think that's a really interesting way of doing things, making lightning a little more prevalent in the game. I feel like Frost is really the main way to handle playing a Defect build is through Frost orbs and the defense. And now they're making lightning a little more relevant and a little stronger. I like that a lot. Hyper Beam now does 2 extra damage in general. And if you upgrade it, the upgrade is also 2 extra damage. Maybe a more pickable card. This is one of those cards that you usually don't take. They buffed Shatter, which I think this is going to be too strong of a buff. Now evokes all your orbs twice. So what Shatter does is it deals AoE damage, and then it would evoke your orbs, all 3 of them, or however many orbs you had. And now it's going to evoke them twice. So I think the reason they did that was to make it better because it's a rare card and it didn't do a ton of AoE damage. I believe it does 11 damage, which is still very good for 1 energy plus the evoking of the orbs. I believe the reason that they did the twice evoke orbs is because it's an interesting way to buff it without increasing the actual AoE damage. I think that's a cool way of doing it. I do think it's probably a little too strong. I think evoking orbs twice is kind of insane. Shatter is already a really good card in general, so little awkward, a little interesting. I'm not sure if I love it, but we'll see. You know, they'll be testing it and maybe they'll change it again. They buffed Tesla Coil Plus, upgraded version of Tesla Coil. The damage decreased from 6 to 4, but lightning will trigger twice. So I got a chance to use this. It was pretty strong. Like it was doing a lot of work. It was very, very cool. I liked it a lot. It made Tesla Coil feel like an okay pick, even in the early going when you didn't have your build ready yet, and it helps you to find a little bit of a place to sort of build towards. They also buffed Uproar, which I also used, and Uproar felt a little better. It's just 1 extra damage increase in terms of the unupgraded version and the upgraded version. Uproar felt like one of those like really hard to pick cards unless it was like floor 1 and you just really needed damage. But it's a little more relevant now. 1 extra damage means a lot on a card that deals damage twice. Colorless cards buffed Gold Axe in multiplayer now deals damage equal to the number of cards played by all players, not just cards played by its owner. So that is an insanely good buff to Gold Axe. I love the way they're handling that in multiplayer. It's not like the strongest card, but it is a decent enough scaling engine in solo. In multiplayer, it seems really, really good because obviously the enemies scale up too. So you need those cards to scale forward as well. So I like that change a lot. Then you got some enemies. Like we said, Doormaker was reworked to Eon Glass. We already talked about that. We don't need to keep talking about it. Changed Fossil Stalker in multiplayer now gains a set amount of strength if it hits any player instead of gaining strength for each player hit. That's a big time change. Certainly seems like a nerf. I guess it depends on how much strength that they changed. They didn't tell us. And then they also changed Haunted Ship. This is in both solo and multiplayer. It's not just in co-op. Now applies 3 weak on turn 1 instead of applying weak when it attacks. Way better, way more difficult, but not unfairly difficult. I faced him a couple of times. He felt tougher, but not unbeatable. So that was a very good change. They buffed Soulfish so that the Scream move damage increased from 11 to 13, or on the higher ascensions from 12 to 15. I don't know, Soulfish is a tough fight, but it didn't necessarily deal damage that really hurt you so much. It's more the beckons that really kind of kill you and win that fight. Maybe it could use a little bit of a buff. I don't know. People were probably beating Soulfish pretty easily, even though difficult boss if you don't have the right deck. But if you see that Soulfish is there, you know, get some exhaust cards, get some discard cards, get some things that are going to deal with the beckons, and it's not so hard a fight. Now we get into some really fun stuff. We got a reworked Teskatara's Pumpkin Candle Relic. The old one used to gain 1 energy at the start of each turn, but extinguished at the end of Act 3. Now it's gain 1 energy at the start of each turn, extinguishes after 5 combats, but the flame can be kindled at rest sites. I didn't run into it in any of my runs on stream today, but as far as I understand, What happens is you get to a rest site and you can choose to kindle instead of rest or smith. If you kindle, that means that it adds another 5 combats before it's going to extinguish, and you can stack those. Very, very interesting new way of making Pumpkin Candle good. Also, very interesting way of buffing Teskatara, because that is one of the worst ancients that you want to run into. Like, she's got some tough relics that you don't really want to deal with. And Pumpkin Candle is a really cool way to gain energy, but still have a little bit of a downside. Also, this makes Miniature Tent way, way stronger. So yet another way that Mini Tent becomes a big thing. I love that personally, because Miniature Tent is just super fun. And we also got some new 2’s relics. We got Kaleidoscope, which is a temporary name. I kind of like the name, to be honest, but whatever. Upon pickup, gain 2 card rewards with cards from other characters. I got this on one of my runs. Super fun. Just kind of fun. I don't know if it's going to be great, but you basically gain 2 card rewards at the beginning. You had your 3 card choices, and it was a complete mix of any of the characters. It wasn't like, oh, I got 3 silent rewards and then 3 regent rewards, and I got to choose 1 silent card and 1 regent. No, it was almost like, you know, you had a prismatic shard, a prismatic gem, and you got just 3 random cards from different characters, and you got to choose them, pick and choose whatever you wanted out of the 6 cards, you know. You had 2 choices, 1 of 3, 1 of 3. And then we've got Fishing Rod, which every 3 normal combats upgrade a random card in your deck. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to run into this. I did not see it. Seems like a very, very strong relic. I definitely want to test it out. Might be a little hard because there are a lot of tough normal combats in terms of hard hallway fights, but kind of cool to be able to upgrade a card every 3 that you face, and that works throughout all 3 acts. So I'm looking forward to trying that out a lot. Then you got Silken Tress, which is enchant all cards in the first card reward with Glam. I don't know if it's super, super good or super useful. We all know that replay is incredibly strong. Getting your first card reward with replay, if you hit on something really, really good, well, that could be a winner for Act 1. Sort of depends, obviously, on what the rewards are in the first after the first fight. But I do think that's a very, very interesting way to do 2’s relics. I like those rewards that are strong, but not OP. It seems like a good way to do things, obviously. Then they moved Teskatara's Seal of Gold relic to option 3 so that it's in the same pool as Pumpkin Candle. I'm assuming, you know, they want the energy relics to be in the same exact pool. Then there's an event change, which is something special now happens if you have multiple lantern keys. That doesn't apply to multiplayer. I am sorry to report that I have no clue what that means. As far as I know, we haven't seen it be discovered, or at least nobody brought it to my attention yet. I will keep an eye out for that to find out what is that something special that's now happening, but at the moment, I don't have any information for you. If you do find out, let me know in the comments section, because I am interested in what that is. And of course, as always, they added some art. They added some rewording. They did some new audio. We got Soulfish with background music, Kaiser Crab with sound effects, background music, and Hyperbeam now has sound effects. Of course, a bunch of bug fixes. I'm not going to go through all that. I appreciate you guys for watching. Again, let me know in the comment section, the big change. Doormaker out the door. He's gone. And Eon Glass back in. How you feeling about it? Are you excited? I appreciate you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I will catch you on the next video. Also, of course, like and subscribe. You know the deal. You know the deal. You've been on YouTube. You know what it is.